Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Sobriety and Everything Else. My name is Eric Andrew. I am your host for the show, and I am zooming into you live from my studios in my dining room. Well, so much for it being sexy, right? Anyway, it's been a while, hasn't it? It's been a while. It's been about a month. So part of that is an apology. I've just been not feeling it. I've been going through some things and just trying to get back on track. I had injured my knee back in early March, I guess it was, and I've been kind of fighting through that. And then it kind of led into a lower back issue, which I think might have actually been the cause of the knee issue. I'm not quite positive. But anyway, I'm on the mend. I'm getting back into running again and walking a little bit. I mean, I'm sore, really sore today, but I'm hoping that the rebound will be better tomorrow. I did like 2 full days in a row of some activity, so we'll see what happens. But along with that, I've just kind of been rethinking things. So I'm in the process of trying to decide what I want to do with the podcast moving forward. Do I want to keep it on this platform only? Do I want to expand it? Certainly, I want to come up with some different topics, maybe stuff we've talked about before, but also some other things. Also toying with the idea of guests. We might try that this coming year and see how that goes. This part of the discussion. Now, before I go any further, I do have a topic today, and we will have a regular discussion. And this is going to be everything else part of the sobriety and everything else topic situations, which, by the way, we will stick to regardless of how this goes or how this expands or stays the same or whatever might happen. So I'm, going to take a break. You might be saying, well, wait a second, Eric, you've been taking a break. We haven't seen you for a month. You're right. But I'm going to take the rest of the summer off. So I wanted to get on here, do this towards the end of July type of topic, because this topic's kind of been gnawing at me a little bit, and I do want to talk about it. And it has the potential of being a tiny bit controversial on some levels. I'm going to try to keep it off of that, but I'm not necessarily going to hide from it either. Because one thing that I do want to do more of is I want to be really raw with you about this, okay? Not just with sobriety, but kind of jumping back into your life. The idea of life being messy. Life is not always perfect. We don't always say the right things. We don't always do the right things. We have opinions. We have thoughts. I have opinions and thoughts about a lot of things. I'm not saying I'm always right. I'm not saying I'm always wrong. I'm not saying I'm either. I might be sort of kind of in the middle, which is for the most part where most of us are, is sort of kind of in the middle. Any of us who think we're always right or any of us who think we're always wrong, that's neither of those two choices are ever correct. We're usually in the middle. We usually got part of it right and part of it wrong. And a lot of times our thoughts about things or opinions about things come kind of more from our own perspective. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today and talk in terms of how we view others and that word other, how that plays a part in our minds, in terms of our perception, in terms of our imaginations or the stories that we tell ourselves, all of that. But I'm also taking a month off because, of course, it's the summer. I'm going to be out of town next month for a week in the middle of the summer. I'm finishing up with my summer workload towards the beginning of August, and then I'll be off for a vacation. And I don't really want to have to worry about too much. I kind of want to enjoy vacation. One thing that has been said to me in this world of being sober along the way, and I think there's a lot of truth to it, and there's something that I want to say to you, is we didn't go into this fight, we didn't go into this battle, we didn't go through the hardships and everything else of sobriety to just sit here. We did it so we could get back into life. We did it so we could enjoy the moments that life gives. And the beauty of that is that we can have boundaries and we can say no, and we can say, hey, this is my vacation. Hey, this is my time, my free time away from everything. A chance to recharge the batteries on every level. Sometimes we only recharge the batteries on one level and we don't really do it on all the other levels, and we still feel kind of beat, right? So this is my opportunity to really recharge the batteries. And I'm looking forward to it, but it also gives me a chance to really think about the podcast and where I want to go with it and what I want to do. So my plan is I'm doing this podcast today, and then I will probably be coming back at you sometime in September. Now, I am a teacher, so it may not be the first part of September. I'm not sure yet. It might be. We might try to get something done September 1st, but I think that could be pushing it. It more than likely might be towards the middle of September. I've got a project early September going on. Well, I shouldn't say early, probably more like mid-September. So we'll see. If I can start something right before that project really gets started, I will. If I can't, it's going to be closer to the end of September. So somewhere in the midst of all of that is the plan. So we'll see what happens. So expect a podcast in what we might call season 2. I don't know yet. I'm still playing around with that if I want to do seasons or not. I am taking a break. So typically in the podcast world, that usually indicates that we're leaving one season and going towards another. So it might end up being that. And that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. So we probably looking at either mid-September or the very end of September coming back. And like I said, at that point, there's a lot of things that are in the mix, and I'll probably spend that first time talking about those changes and different things. Hopefully I'll have banked maybe a couple of episodes, maybe, if things are going the way I would like them to go. And we'll see. Maybe one of them might be an opportunity with somebody to have a guest. We will see how that plays out. So anyway, more to come, as a friend likes to say, more to come on that. So let me move into, since I've babbled now for over 8 minutes about all of this, let me move into the topic. So the topic that I really want to talk about is this idea of other. And this comes out of kind of where I want to go with the podcast moving forward, which is I want to be honest on it. That didn't sound right. I want to allow myself to be human, just like you are human. Right. So I want to talk about the things that I like. I want to talk about the things I dislike, whether it be in sobriety or whether it be in life. I want to talk about how life is usually very messy. It's not always very pretty, whether we are sober or not. Usually when we are not, it's even more messy. But when we get sober, at least we can deal with the mess with a clear head. And that is always the better way to do it. I know, at least for me in my life, it is a better way to do it. And I would encourage you to try that and see what you think. You may find the same to be true for you. So the thing I want to talk about is, how do we deal with other people? So again, I will talk from my perspective. I'm not going to assume that everybody has the same experiences or that everybody deals with or acts about things in the same way. But when I was in my my active addiction. Why was that so hard to spit out? When I was in my active addiction, it was about me. And it was about how everybody around me had done things to me. Now, that goes further than just the addiction, but I had to get the addiction out of the way in order to see that. I also had to get the addiction out of the way because there was a lot of that I could clean up just by getting sober, which I was able to do. But one of the things that I have really noticed about people, and again, my perception of people, but also my perception of myself, is this idea that we look at the world in a way that it's us against the other. All right. And the other is whoever we want to put in that picture, whether it's a family member, a significant other, a friend, a coworker, a boss, the world, whatever it is. We tend to look at that group that's not us as the other. And the other, in some ways and in some moments and sometimes, becomes the enemy. The person who is anti-whatever. Anti-Eric, anti-Mike, anti-Jim, anti-Julie, anti-Agnes, whatever your name is. Just insert your name, insert your name. That the other is anti that person, meaning their job is to do everything in the world to make your life miserable. And that is your perception, or at least that was my perception, especially when I was using. It was easy to just point my finger, because then I could blame them for the shit that my life was. And that was easy. So as I drank, I just blamed them, and that was my solution to the problem, that it was their fault. But in doing that, it meant that the solving of that was on them, not on me. They had to solve that. That if they only fix themselves, my life would be so much better. If they only loved me in the way that I wanted them to love me, my life would be so much better. If they only put me in the job position that I wanted to be put into, my life would be so much better, right? So I put it all on them, all on the other person to fix me, all right? What I found was a big part of that was within my addiction. So when I did clean up my addiction, some of that did start to go away. I started to accept more responsibility for my own life and realized that, wait a minute, some of this is choices that I'm making that is causing me to be in the situations I'm in. So I need to accept that responsibility, and I cannot put that blame on them, that they're doing something to me. That was the other part of it in terms of addiction. But then I started to realize that some of this other discussion or argument came out of my own experiences in my past. Some of it trauma-based, some of it not. Some of it just my experiences in life. Because listen, we could do everything right. So let's just pretend, which, by the way, just a side note, there's no such thing as this. But let's just pretend there's a checklist of everything that you can do in order to have a perfect life. Okay? And we all get that checklist, which if we did, I certainly was skipped over because I never got one. And if you did get one, could you forward it to me? That'd be kind of nice. But I joke. We didn't get a checklist. We never had a checklist. There was no such thing as a checklist in order to get through this life, in order to make our life perfect. But let's just pretend there was. All right. And we have this checklist and we did everything right on the checklist. Life, this is the way life works. Now, in our assumption, we would do everything right on the checklist and everything would go well, right? That's kind of what the assumption would be. The reality is that we do everything right on that checklist and things don't always go well. So we get a job that pays well. We live within our means. If we have a family, we are able to be supportive of that family, make sure that they're taken care of. But yet people still get sick. The car still breaks down. The water pipe still breaks. The air conditioner still goes. The family member still passes away or has a major injury or major illness, whatever. I could sit here and list all kinds of things. We break our ankle on a hike. Things that are unexpected happen, all right? And that just is what life is. It happens. And it's not because somebody did it to us. It's just because it happens. But the problem in that is that we tend to need to fix it in our brain by somehow blaming it on others. That, well, if this person would have went with me on that hike, I wouldn't have been in that position where I had to make that choice to step on that wet rock and slip and twist my ankle and it broke. I wouldn't have done that. If that person would have been with me, we would have done that differently and I would not have been in that position. So I'm going to blame them for my broken ankle. Right? Well, if only the doctor would have told us last year when we had the checkup that there was some things going on that needed addressing, then I or they or we wouldn't be in this position of this illness. So it's the doctor's fault that I'm sick. It's the friend's fault that I broke my ankle. It's the other's fault that I don't have the job that I want, so on and so forth. And we see this in all aspects of life. And one place where it rears its head in a really nasty way is in our politics. And when I say our politics, I mean the whole human race, not just America. Granted, our experience is here, but this is everywhere. And politics is very good at understanding that we like to blame people and that we get caught up in that. And we feel better when we can put all the problems of our lives on somebody else. So they use that and they put that into play. And so right now in our country, we are dealing with this epidemic of the other, the blaming of the other for everything that's going wrong in our lives. Now, before I go any further, are there issues in our lives that are beyond our control? Yes. But does that mean that the other is doing it to us? Not always, not necessarily. If the other is a human being that's just like you, then probably the answer is no. They're just living their lives and doing the things they need to do in their life, and the things that they're choosing based on their experience and perception of their life to make their lives safe. Do we have control over what our politicians do and the choices they make? The only way we have control over that is voting, right? That's really the biggest choice, and also making ourselves vocal and saying the things that we need to say and using our voices. And we're seeing people doing that now in this country, especially in terms of going to rallies, in terms of voting, in terms of things like that. And I bring that up not to make this a political show. I bring that up because one thing that we are seeing in that I think is really important is this idea of using your voice, speaking up and using your voice, and saying what you're accepting and what you won't accept. Saying what and being willing to accept the responsibility of who you are. One thing that sobriety has taught me is this idea of accepting the fact that this journey that I'm on is my responsibility. It's nobody else's. And I think that's the biggest point in all of this about other, is it's not somebody else's fault. It's not the other's fault that your life is what it is. It's your responsibility to make your life the best you can make it. Does that mean it's always going to be perfect? No. Is part of our problem believing in some sort of fantasy that doesn't exist? And I'm talking individually in our lives in general. Yes, we have a tendency to believe that, oh, well, if I do this, this, and this, and this, there's this beautiful rainbow at the end of all that that's just going to make my life perfect. A lot of people get in sobriety and think the same thing. I'm going to get sober and suddenly my life is going to be perfect. And then they realize that no, now the work starts. Now the work of just living your life as a human being in the world starts, because you're not numb to it. You know it's there, and now you have to deal with it, whatever that might be, the good, bad, and the ugly, right? So the biggest point in all of this, and I'm noticing this is running long, but I knew it would, is letting you know that other is not the way to solve a problem. Blaming somebody else is not the way to solve a problem. Accepting responsibility, understanding it's your responsibility to help yourself in your life, whether you are trying to get through an addiction, which all of you are doing that are probably watching this. And if you're not, you're thinking about it at least, right? And afterwards, living your life and accepting the things that you have to accept and taking on the challenges that you're going to have to take on without waiting for somebody else to come along and just solve it for you. So if there's a big takeaway from all of this, get away from focusing on blaming others for your life and start looking at yourself and realizing your life, good, bad, or indifferent, is your responsibility. You are the one that makes it good, bad, or indifferent. Your choices make it good, bad, or indifferent. If one choice isn't working, change it and go to another choice. Okay, sorry that the choice you had was your favorite, most ultimate choice that you really want to do in your life. It didn't work. So now you need to go to something else. And this is where people get stuck. You gotta let go of things. Life isn't permanent. It's going to keep changing. And it's going to keep changing around you. And if you don't change with it, it's not going to work. You've got to go with the flow, right? Think about a stream with a current. When you swim against a current, it's really fucking hard, right? But if you go with the current, it's a heck of a lot easier. So think about that. Sometimes going with the current and understanding change is probable, is going to happen, then understand that you need to change in order to adapt to that and make that work within your life, right? So stand up for who you are as a person. Stop blaming others for the things that are going on in your life, good or bad, and take on the responsibility of making your life what you want it to be. And realize that you may need to make adjustments, and that's okay. It's okay. And it may not be exactly, listen, what I do for a career, what I do for a living, if you asked me when I was in college, would I be doing this? I would have said, no, there's no way I'll be doing that. That is not what I have anticipated in my life of doing ever. And here I am doing it. And not only doing it for a living, but here I'm on a podcast teaching. I'm getting ready to start teaching meditation, which I'm going to be introducing that a little bit more into the fall as well. I'm doing all these things because I adapted. I realized this is what I was good at. I realized this is what the world was looking for and needed from me to do. And I'm doing it. And it has worked and has been great for me. And has given me a career and a life that I never thought I would have. So If I would have fought against that and said, no, 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 I don't want to do it, God only knows what would have happened to me. I don't know. Maybe another chance would have come along, but I don't know. Anyway, I could talk for hours on the concept of other, and I would love to hear from you about that and also about the changes that might be coming up. So please email me if you have any thoughts about this episode or any thoughts about changes, maybe things you might want to see or hear about. Please email me at ericandrewcoaching@gmail.com. That's ericandrewcoaching12@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you, and I hope you have a great rest of your summer, and I will be talking to you in the fall. Take care, everybody.